Welcome to Connecting Through Storytelling. My name is Charlie Palumbo. I am the Military Voices Initiative Manager and excited to be here today and have you join us to learn a little bit about StoryCorps and how you might get involved with telling your story.
And I am Maria Brown. I am a military spouse and currently working with StoryCorps and the Military Voices Initiative in a fellowship capacity. I'm so glad you're here. So, for many in the military community, holidays might not always happen in the same way, and the traditions that we look forward to can look different from year to year. We may not always be able to spend the quality time with loved ones that we cherish the most. This season, we invite you to sit down and have a conversation with someone you love, whether you're able to physically be together or not, and preserve your conversation for generations to come. Today, we're going to share how StoryCorps can help you do that.
So, at the heart of StoryCorps, it's really about taking the time to listen to one another and remind us that each one of us matters. So we would like to take a moment before we get into all the details about StoryCorps and recording your story to really reflect on the following question as we start this time together today. Who in your life have you felt connected to this week? Hold this in your mind as we discuss connection through storytelling.
Our mission is simple but significant. StoryCorps aims to help us believe in each other by illuminating the humanity and possibility in us all, one story at a time. Here's a quick video based on a conversation our founder recorded with his nephew, with more about the origins of StoryCorps and the impact of preserving family stories.
I just start by asking you one of the questions on my list, right?
Anything you want.
Okay. So, what were you like as a kid?
I was pretty weird. I didn't want to do anything but watch TV. And I spent a lot of time by myself. But I always liked talking to older people, like the waitress at the luncheonette near my house or my grandparents. I remember when I was just a few years older than you, your great grandpa Abe and your great grandma Rose and her sisters came over to our apartment for Thanksgiving. After dinner, I found this tape recorder lying around, and somehow I got the idea to interview them. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I recorded their voices and stories, and I saw how much they loved being listened to. A few years later, your great-grandpa and your great-grandma and all her sisters passed away. But I remembered I'd made that tape, so I went looking for it, but I couldn't find it. Even now, when I go to your grandma's house, I go looking for that tape, just hoping it's going to turn up.
I don't get it. Why do you keep looking for it?
Because it would make me so happy to hear those voices again, and I'd love to play that tape for you. You know, doing that recording really taught me something. You can find the most amazing stories from regular people. All you have to do is ask them about their lives and listen.
Really? That's it?
Yeah, it's simple. We can learn so much about the people all around us, even about the people we already know, just by taking the time to have a conversation. And if you pay just a little attention, you'll find wisdom and poetry in their words.
Do people really want you to ask about their lives?
Yeah, they do. Most people love to be listened to because it tells them how much their lives matter. All you need to ask are questions like, who is the most important person in your life? Or what are you proudest of? Really, listening closely is simple. When you're curious, treat people with respect, and have just a little courage to ask the important questions, great things are going to happen.
I just start by asking you one of the questions on.
So, no matter how or where you choose to record with StoryCorps, we create a quiet, reflective space where you can share 40 minutes with a loved one and ask important questions and listen. With permission, StoryCorps shares these recordings with the Library of Congress so that future generations can listen to and learn from them. The StoryCorps archive has grown to over 700,000 interviews, the largest single collection of human voices ever gathered. As our archive grows with each passing day, It encompasses the huge diversity of this country and its people. Every Friday morning, we showcase one of these stories on National Public Radio. We also produce short animations of stories to share on public television and in classrooms across the country. We're going to be watching and listening to some of those stories today. This really is the best way to get to know StoryCorps by listening. So we'd like to take a few moments to listen together to a few of the stories from our archive. One of the most powerful things about StoryCorps interviews is that it's actually a conversation between two people who care about each other. So I am excited to introduce Lola's work. This piece was created using our StoryCorps Connect, and it's between Lola's grandson, Kenneth Tan, and his mother, Olivia. And he is sharing the greatest lesson that Lola has taught him.
Lola was my first roommate when I was a kid. So we shared a room. She would keep the light on every night because she would be up praying and the light would still be on in the morning. And I just always remember her in the kitchen making hopia, smoothing out the mung bean, making little pockets with the dough and stuffing them in pink donut boxes. And she would let me eat the duds. How did I not have like childhood diabetes?
The kitchen was always greasy and the electric bill was going up. But that was Lola's business. And she never stopped working. I was told that when she was little, she was the top student. But my mom did not finish high school because my grandfather passed away early. So she did all kinds of work to support her family. And when she had her children, she had to provide for us. There was nobody else. There was no such thing as vacation. And when Lola got older, she lived with us, bringing up her grandchildren.
Yeah. It was, I think, 2014. And you called me. You were caring for Lola at the time. And so I wanted to come home to help care for Lola because she'd always been the one who took care of all of us. Before she passed, she'd tell me stories about her life. And that's when Lola and I started painting them. You know, I think I learned from Lola that there's a difference between your job and your work. Your job is something you leave behind at the end of a day, but your work is everything you leave behind at the end of a lifetime. Lola, she didn't have the most glamorous jobs, but I think her work was all of us.
It's her love for us that I remember most. It was not so much of hugging or saying, I love you, but it was all the things she did. You're right. We are. We are her work.
As you listen to the stories we share, you probably notice that there are three key ingredients that unite our collection. First, StoryCorps stories are intentional. It's all about carving out time to connect with someone we care about and respect them with our time and attention. Second, StoryCorps are a meaningful conversation between two people. And finally, these conversations are participant led. Questions, answers, and consent to preserve are all determined by participants as they go through. Here's a powerful testimonial from one of our participants that speaks to the power of our key ingredients and highlights the impact of our Military Voices initiative. I won't read this whole slide to you, but I do want to share the piece that stood out the most to me. Dan Miller says, "To be able to sit down and walk through everything with Nick was like a cleansing of my soul in so many ways." Powerful stuff.
Thank you, Maria. And that leads us to the Military Voices Initiative, which is what I do here at StoryCorps. And the Military Voices Initiative really provides a platform for veterans, service members, and military families to share their stories. In doing so, we honor their voices, we amplify their experiences, and let them know that we as a nation are listening. We also get to enjoy setting up partnerships across the US to meet more veterans and service members and military spouses and support them in different ways as well. So excited for our Military Voices initiative. With that, I'm going to now do what we do best and share another story with you from our Military Voices Initiative collection. This is a veteran Ghuan who left the military and returned to LA and immersed himself in horseback riding. He comes to StoryCorps with his mentee, Jordan Humphreys. And at just 13 years old, Jordan had become a cornerstone of urban saddles.
Describe the first horse you ever had of your own.
The first horse I ever had was Thunderbolt. I loved that horse. He thought he was the biggest horse around, man. You know, you would be going full speed, and then he'd give you a little buck to see if he could get you off his back.
Better get ready for this buck.
Yeah. But me and him bonded because he couldn't get me, you know. I remember when we first got Princess, it took forever to try to get her out of the
And
stall.
at first, she didn't let no grown-ups go in there.
Yeah, she didn't want to see nobody bigger than her. But you hopped on her and started riding. She kept bucking you off. You get back on, you know. I was like, look at Jordan. And that's what showed, you know, resiliency right there and, you know, determination. For real. It wasn't just because you never fell off or...
She don't do none of that no more.
No, she don't do none of that no more. Now you can touch her head, you know. Yeah, you did a great job. You like riding on the city streets?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. What you like riding on the streets for?
I think it gives, like, more connection for people. It makes them happy seeing us on the horse, and then they be smiling.
I believe that when we come through, we give them a sense of hope.
Why did you start the stables?
For you and all the other kids out there. My hopes for your future is greatness. Imagine all of the things you could think about other than thinking about your safety walking around on the street or going to the store. You could be president.
And then, like, I could help the other kids like you did for me. What's the most important lesson that you want to teach kids?
Respect for all life. We're respecting the animals and we're respecting each other. No matter what color, no matter what religion, no matter what sexual orientation, we respecting people because they people. Bottom line.
And now I'm going to introduce a second piece that we're going to listen to today as well. And this is two veterans, Michael Davidson and Wendy Barton, who came to us to really talk about finding a sense of purpose after they served.
Can you tell me about your grandfather?
Yeah, I called him Peepaw. World War II veteran. He was why I joined the Navy. He taught me how to be vulnerable. He was the first man I ever saw cry and made it okay.
What was Peepaw's nickname for you?
Nub, Nubbin, Nubs. And when I joined the Navy and got stationed on my first submarine, I was going down the ladder and the topside watch looked at me and said, "Get hot, Nub." And I'm like, why would he call me Nub? I asked him, it's like, did my grandfather call the boat? And he's like, why would you ask me that? I'm like, well, because only my grandfather calls me Nub. And he started to laugh, and he just like, well, that's a Navy acronym for non-usable body. I was devastated. I went and got a roll of quarters at the bowling alley, and I called my grandfather, told him I had made it to the boat and checked in, and that I also knew what nub meant. I'm like, you've been calling me a non-usable body my entire life? And he said, yeah, you kind of have been. Go do something with it. And I think I have and continue to do so.
I would agree with that. Definitely. Changed a lot of lives.
Thank you. Mine included. You know, I remember when I'd just gotten out of the Navy and I had lost that community and my identity. And so I had like zero purpose. And, you know, at the time, like I was having suicidal ideation. So to go out there and help people, it got me to looking forward instead of looking back.
Yeah, definitely. You know, after the Navy, I was able to be a mom, be a part of every little thing that my children have done. But I missed firefighting and emergency response stuff. It just felt like I had let myself wither. And so I kind of jumped feet first. And my strongest memory on deployments was when we were in Louisiana because there was a flood in Baton Rouge. I happened to knock on a door. The homeowner answered and she was angry. We were 3 weeks post-disaster and nobody had shown up yet. Their whole house was still covered in water and her son's autistic. Well, the next day we had 2 straight teams out there and they were helping that lady and she was crying. And I remember the relief because she wanted to be in her home. And it goes back to immediate impact. When I go on a disaster, I can pack my entire bag in less than 20 minutes and be out the door.
Mm-hmm.
You need boots. You need 3 pairs of pants. You need 18 pairs of socks.
Yeah.
And a lot of veterans have seen the bad side of a non-natural disaster with war. And I think being able to help something go back together is really the call to their hearts.
Yeah. I wish I would have had this when I transitioned out.
I'll agree with that.
And, you know, you've taught me that I still got a lot in the tank in terms of belief of people because you're a damn good shipmate. And I didn't know how much I missed that.
I appreciate that a lot.
You bet.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to those with us. We hope you enjoyed them. So if you're already thinking about who you can record a conversation with this holiday season, StoryCorps is ready to help. Here's a little more about our Great Thanksgiving Listen.
We can find wisdom and poetry all around us. All we have to do is listen. This Thanksgiving, StoryCorps invites you to honor and celebrate the stories of an entire generation of Americans. Together, we can create the largest collection of voices ever gathered in human history and preserve it at the Library of Congress forever. You can record a meaningful interview with a grandparent or another elder. Ask simple questions like, what are you most grateful for? How do you want to be remembered? Then, listen. Truly listening to someone reminds them that their lives matter and reminds us all of what matters most. We're calling this effort the Great Thanksgiving Listen. Help us make history.
So as you consider participating in the Great Thanksgiving Listen this year, we just have a few more things for you to think about. What question would you like to ask somebody this holiday season? And what question would you like to be asked?
So now I'm going to take you through that brief walkthrough step by step so you can also participate with us. Step 1 is choose who you'd like to have a conversation with. Maybe a family member, a neighbor, a friend from your past duty station, or a spouse that just moved into your neighborhood. Step 2, choose your technology. We have 2 options for recording together in person. You can use the StoryCorps app found on the App Store, Google Play, anywhere you get your app. Or if you have a loved one that's far away and they might not be with you during the holiday season, you can use StoryCorps Connect, which allows you to record a conversation remotely using your web browser. So when you aren't able to be there together, you can still find a way to record your story and archive it. Step 3, prepare your questions. The app or our website has a list of great questions that you can choose from. You can find ideas there, or you can write your own. Follow your curiosity. You'll find specific questions for military spouses, active duty veterans, and families on the Military Voices Initiative page that you can find on StoryCorps.org. Step 4, choose a quiet, comfortable space to record. The most important thing is to be present and remove any distractions, and do the best you can to avoid background noise. You want to choose a space in your home that's away from other people and noises. Stay away from your refrigerator, turn off your TV. If you can, stay away from your windows and keep them closed. Find a cozy space. This is for your comfort, but also to help with your sound. Big rooms and lots of hardwood floors create echoes. Think of a gymnasium. If you can, think about a small, soft space with bookshelves and rugs and carpet. And if you're recording using your phone, remember that the microphone is where you talk into the phone, and you always want the microphone to point to the person who's talking so they sound clear and present. If you're on your computer, make sure you're speaking into the microphone and not in any way blocking it. Finally, do some housekeeping. Make sure all of your other apps or programs on your phone are turned off so you don't get interrupted by any notification. Step 5, record your conversation. You're gonna, when you and your partner are ready, you're just gonna press record.
We have a few conversation tips for you here. Um, think of it as a conversation. That's the key that we've been stressing all along, is that this is meant to be a conversation with someone you care about. Think about asking open-ended questions that don't assume answers. Stay away from things that can be responded to with a simple yes or no. Start off simple, and then you can gradually build up to more reflective questions as your conversation progresses. Use silence and patience. Ask follow-up questions. And like Charlie said before, just follow your curiosity. Here are a few follow-up questions to keep in your backpack. Pull them out to keep the conversation going, or to go deeper and help your partner flesh out their stories with rich sensory details and reflection. Next, it's time to archive and preserve your story. If you're using the StoryCorps app or StoryCorps Connect, once you finish and save your conversation, you'll be prompted to add a title, summary, and keywords. Be sure to add the tag for the Military Voices Initiative. These steps will make it easier to find your recording once you've uploaded it to the archive. Finally, you'll also choose a privacy setting for your recording in StoryCorps' online archive. You can decide to share it with the world, or keep it private between you and your conversation partner. Or you can share a link directly with your family and friends. Conversations in the StoryCorps archive are preserved in the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress for generations to come. You can find your conversation and others at archive.storycorps.org. Congratulations, you did it.
Now that you've gotten a step-by-step guide, let's address a few facts and questions that we get asked a lot. Can I record interviews in another language? The StoryCorps archive has 50 languages represented so far. Do you have any tips for inviting someone who might be a little reluctant to do this conversation? Yes, talk about this as a gift for you. The most common response people have to StoryCorps, at least initially, is I have no stories to tell. What would I talk about for 40 minutes? So you remind them of the stories you'd like to hear about. Think about that question that we asked you at the beginning, or the question we asked about the question you would love to be asked during the holidays as you talk to them. Those are important as you speak with your family and friends about recording with us. Let your loved one interview you. It's very likely that after you get going, you'll be able to ask them a question or two. What if you or your partner get a little stuck during the conversation? Well, prepare ahead of time and really think about the topics you want to cover and the topics you do not want to talk about. This always helps lead to a really great flowing conversation. And don't forget those questions that Maria just shared with us as ways to keep those conversations going and to have in your back pocket during during your recording. So last, we're going to leave you with one of our MBI favorites, and this is Dreamer's Gift. So we will play this last video for you today.
When I showed up, I was washed.
Yeah, you've been drinking.
I was totally out of hope. And part of that was the way I looked. I hadn't shaved in a couple weeks. My hair was filthy and scraggly. But getting the haircut made me feel, for lack of a better word, normal, which I hadn't in a long, long time.
When I first ran into you, I saw a guy that could, at some point, rise above it. And I just felt that I can help you. Abraham Lincoln once said, never underestimate the power of a haircut. Of course, he never said that, but he should have said it.
I try and help you out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not cutting hair, but when I'm there at the trailer, I've watched the guy that just came right off the streets, not doing too well, and the only thing he has to pay you with is an orange.
Whatever you got, we'll make a deal. I got rubber band balls, I've got pebbles, rocks, washers.
I've never seen you turn anybody away. It's amazing to me to see the guys that come in the beginning, and then after they've been there a little while, they're going out to look for work.
Mm-hmm.
And they walk in with a suit and the haircut you had given them the day before, and you can't even recognize them compared to the day they walked in there. You impressed me from the very start, and I respect what you have imparted to me. It's what has made me into a better person because of my interaction with you.
Thank you, buddy. We're going to move forward. That's why we comb our hair backwards.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you for your time and attention. Maria and I are both grateful that you chose to spend this time with us learning about StoryCorps and how maybe during this holiday season you can connect with your family, friends, loved ones around the table with stories. Or if you're not together, you can connect through our StoryCorps Connect to share the meaningful conversations and record your stories to preserve your family's legacy. Thank you again for your time, and we look forward to hearing your story in our StoryCorps collection.
Thank you.